Hello and welcome to my Lionel review. In this video we are going to be looking at Lionel as a unit in hard mode in the video game Triangle Strategy, and we're going to be determining how good he is as a unit and what he brings to the table and where he excels and where he's bad. Alright, so let's look at his stats before we do anything. So I unequipped his accessories so you can see his basic stats. This is at level 50, so this is maxed out. So his strength, I would say, is like a little bit below average. Physical defense, a little bit above average. Magical attack, bottom of the barrel here, like very low. If he uses like a Firestone or something, it's going to hit for like a 50. That's why you want magical attack, even on a unit that's not a mage. Magical defense, a little bit below average. Luck, definitely high. 55 luck is quite high. Accuracy of 53 is about average. Speed of 24 is low. Evasion of 48 is average. Jump of 2, it's average for most units, but it's the lowest jump most units have. Movement of 4 is on the lower end. So his average stats are generally kind of bad. He is a physical damage dealer in a way, but he's more of like a crowd control unit that debuffs. Like if you look at his abilities, you can see there's a lot of down arrows, meaning there's a lot of conditions and debuffs. So he's more of like a shutdown unit than a damage dealer or a tank or anything like that. So let's go over his abilities. So his basic weapon attack deals 177 damage at base. This is decent. It's not really good. It's probably a little bit below average in terms of just like raw damage, but it's fine. And that's with all the damage upgrades as well. Next we have Charm. So this ability will generally lower an enemy's physical and magic defense by like 6 to 7, and then when upgraded, like 9 to 10. And the higher level you get, like once you get to level 50, this matters less and less, especially once you get to level 50. At lower levels, it's okay, but the fact that it has a range of 1 means he needs to be standing next to whatever he wants to charm, and that's generally a bad idea because he has decent durability, but he's not like exactly a tank. So he doesn't really want to be in the fray. He wants to be like with the team attacking things. So in my eyes, this is just like not good. It's just not a useful thing. It also costs 1 TP. And you also have to consider this too, right? Like if he were to just smack an enemy for like 50 or 60 damage, and then, you know, 2 or 3 allies follow up and then it dies, charming it and scaling their damage by like, I don't know, 10 or 20% is like similar to him just smacking it for a little bit of damage himself. So unless you use this on a boss, it's not really worth using in general, and it's not that good. And like lower level, maybe it's okay in some situations if you can like have enemy defense or something if their stats are really low. But the higher level you get, the less useful it becomes. Once you get to end game and especially New Game Plus, this just falls off completely. And maybe you use it on a boss circumstantially, but that's the only use case I could really see it seeing any use. All right, next we have Ruffle Feathers. This is one of his best abilities. 2 TP for a ranged fury against enemies of the same level, 90% success rate. When upgraded, 100% success rate. So furying an enemy mage or an enemy healer will cause them to chase Lionel and try to attack him with a physical attack that does no damage or low damage. So like we're talking like 1s and 2s here, like they hit really low at level 50. So he can just straight up shut down enemy mages that are on high ground and enemy healers, and this is extremely useful. He can maintain this on up to 2 enemies. So like he casts it on one, they're furied for 2 turns, he casts it on the other, they're furied for 2 turns, the other one's now furied for 1 turn, and then it's his turn again, he furies the other one. He can maintain it on 2 targets. So he can perpetually shut down, assuming he has a TP battery like a Julio or a Medina, he can shut down 2 enemy mages until you kill them. That's extremely viable. That's really useful. The only downside is that he has to get within range, and sometimes there's like physical enemies in the way that could like surround and spike him down. So you have to be a little careful with that because he can get spiked down very easily. But overall, this is really good skill. Lucky Find. This is used for farming, and if you just want him to pick up spoils while you're playing the game, he gets whatever his level is times 10, I believe, or no, times 20. So if he's level 50, he picks up 1k. So if he's like level 40, he picks up 800 gold and so on. So I believe like that's what it does essentially. Yeah, I think that's correct. Yeah, yeah, it's 50 times. Yeah, yeah. All right, so then you have Inciting Whispers. 30% tempt rate at range. 30%. Very low, very inconsistent, misses a lot. Of same leveled enemies, his is 30%. No way to increase it. It's just bad. Just don't waste your time. Brute Force, roughly a 40 to 50% chance to hit, and it does more damage than a normal attack, but it misses so often it's almost never worth it. It does have increased. It has 100% hit rate versus like sleeping enemies and I think immobilized enemies and enemies that are affected by Quahog's time stop. So in that situation, he could help with burst damage, but just using this when the enemy is not crowd controlled in some way where they can't dodge. 50, you're like flipping a coin, so it's usually just better just to whack it for consistent damage. Treasure and HP, he gets healed when picking up spoils. Nothing too crazy here. It's okay. Endless Speech. This is an AoE he can use at range. It has a 50% chance to silence and a 50% chance to put an enemy to sleep for 2 turns. So this is two separate like triggers. So it'll check. It's like flipping a coin because it's 50-50 against same leveled enemies. You flip a coin for the silence and then you flip a coin for the sleep. So sometimes they'll just be silenced, sometimes they'll just be like put asleep, sometimes they'll get both. And also it flips a coin for each enemy affected. It can hit up to 5 enemies, so each enemy gets their own coin flips. So like some enemies will get put to sleep, some enemies will get silenced, some enemies won't be affected. So it's generally, if you use it on 5 enemies, most of them will get one of the effects, but it also reduces their speed for 2 turns in general. So it puts at least 1 debuff on up to 5 targets and potentially 3 debuffs total on a single target if everything works out. But it is good. It's a good ability. It's decent. You can use it at range. So it helps him shut down enemy melee, because if it puts at least like 2 of them to sleep, you can just ignore them for 2 turns and just not hit them, and then it just shuts them down. So pretty useful. It can, you can silence mages with it. You can put them to sleep, which is just like ruffling their feathers. So it's like an AoE ruffle feathers. It's less consistent, but has 2 conditions and a debuff of speed. All right, Golden Opportunity. This ability allows him to deal good damage, but you have to pay 7.5k for it. So if you're not planning on grinding a lot, then this makes him like C tier as a unit, because then he just misses out on big damage. But if you are planning on grinding a lot, this makes him like, I'd say, a solid B tier for overall like effectiveness. Because he has a few things going against him. His base damage is low. He has mobility issues. He can't tank, but he wants to like get in to like Fury things, like get into the front lines to some degree to Fury enemy mages that are a big threat. So if you can set it up so that enemy mages aren't too far away and he can safely get within range to Fury them, he can be quite good. But there's other ways of dealing with enemy mages. One of the ways is just killing them. Like you just hit them with two mages and they're dead. That's more effective, and like your mage is AoE, so they can damage like an enemy mage, a healer, and an enemy melee at the same time, and then kill all of them. So like he's just worse than a mage basically. Honestly, you're better off running like Corinton or something. I would say he's like B tier. But let's get into his upgrades. I kind of like jumped the gun here, but I actually recorded this video, but I messed up one part of it for like 5 minutes, so. So I'm re-recording it now. All right. So which of his upgrades should you run, and what do they do? So all of these upgrades here in the first like column, these are just damage increases. You have 2/5 damage increases, and then a plus 10 damage increase. Now, if you do plan on running him, these are useful because increasing weapon potency also scales the damage of brute force and golden opportunity, or whatever the hell it's called. I think that's what it's called. But his big AoE where he just drops 7.5k worth of coins on an enemy or group of enemies and also tempts them. I forgot to mention that, but it also tempts them. And it can be used at range, so it is pretty good. But it's very expensive. And then he has health. He wants this because he's kind of like a mid-liner. So he's not in the front lines, he's not in the back lines. He's kind of in between the squishies and the tanks and like the melee damage dealers, and he's kind of like hanging out in between. He wants to be close enough to enemy mages to Fury them or to endless speech them, but he doesn't want to be so close that he's getting surrounded by enemy melee. Because if he gets surrounded by enemy melee, he will get comboed and he will die very fast. So he cannot be in the front lines. So you need to be very careful with his positioning. Yes, he has 550 health, but in hard mode, two enemies on either side of him. Like if one enemy is already next to him for whatever reason, and then another enemy walks up, smacks him for like 150, then follow up attack 100, then it's the other enemy's turn, smacks him for 200, follow up attack 100, he's dead from two enemies. So yeah, so that's why I say he's worse than a mage, because a mage could just nuke those enemies and kite. He cannot do that. He could Fury one of, like the other thing too is like if he Furies a melee, it can mess him up. He's not a tank. He's not an Eridor who can Fury while invincible or just have like insane physical defense. So that's something to keep in mind when using him. But the health upgrades are decent. You can run them. You basically need to because he's a midliner. He needs as much durability as he can get. And then for this, Assailing the Afflicted, this scales his damage to any enemy affected with status effects. So debuffs, poison, silence, blind, sleep until he hits them, which will wake them up. It will affect that. Paralyze, any kind of debuff will scale his damage. So as long as there's any debuff, he'll deal a little bit more damage, which is nice. So you want to get this. Accuracy increase. He has quite poor accuracy. You want to get this. This is like needed. The luck, this just increases his crit rate from the front and sides. He has high luck, so you can invest in these if you want. If you plan on using him full time, it could be okay, but I don't think it's really worth the cost. Like you can see here, 10 superior timber and fiber for +3 luck on a unit that's not even that damaging with his attacks. It's like, I'll pass. Same thing with this one. I could get both of these, but I just don't. I'm not going to be running him too much more after this tutorial. But he's like a B tier unit, so I don't really think it's like worth it to invest in him. If you want to run him and you like his kit and you like him as a character, fine. But he's like a solid B tier because like his big upside is the ranged fury, endless speech, and then the AoE, his big AoE. But it costs 7.5k, which it's like if you use that like 10 times in a match, it's like 75k. So it's like I'm good on that. And the thing is, like, you can just use Corinton, who can just Glacial Moon, which is like similar damage, but it's free. It just costs TP, so I'm good on that. Alright. Next we have an Ore. You unlock one, you unlock both. You can switch whenever. Increases the effects of Charm. So Charm will generally debuff things by -6 to 7 physical and magic defense. The increase puts it to -9 to 10. So slight increase for the debuff. Charm is point blank. I would say it's not as good as the Ruffle Feathers. Ruffle Feathers has a 90% success rate against enemies your level. With this success rate up, it's 100%. And it's a ranged fury. This is the best thing in his kit, by far. 100% ranged fury to shut down mages and healers. This is the only reason I would even run him, to be honest. Like, his damage isn't there, and like this AoE. And it also costs 4 TP. To use Golden Opportunity. So it's not like it's just the cost. It's also like he needs a battery, it's expensive, there's better options to deal damage with AoE, there's all these mages that can do it better. He can contribute to damage in this way, but alright, so then finally we have his tier 3s. The +10 damage is good, the Golden Opportunity is good, and then the luck +3. If you really want to run him, you might as well get it for more crits, for more random crits from the front and sides, but if you just want to run him to ranged fury things to shut down mages, that's probably his best role. Because like shutdown is viable, right? Like shutting down an enemy healer or a mage is damage mitigation or enemy sustainability reduction. So if enemies can't heal, if you can shut down their healers, then they'll die faster. If you can shut down their mages, you mitigated damage. So fury is really useful, but he mostly wants to fury mages because if he furies melee and other enemies like set up follow-up attacks on him, he's gonna get nuked really fast. Like really fast. Like 2 enemies can kill him if they both go after each other and they're next to him. Like that, he can die that easily. So yeah. But Golden Opportunity is good, but if you have to pay for it. So if you're spamming Golden Opportunity and you have like, I'm assuming you have insane amounts of cash, he's A tier. Easily because of the big damage, AoE, and the tempt. So as long as he has a battery and you have the coin for it, he's A tier. If you're using him normally without farming every match, Like, you would have to farm. Like, if you use Golden Opportunity, even just like 5 times in a match, that's like so much money. That forces you to do the 15 to 20k for every 3-minute farm. I don't know, for like 10 to 15 minutes every match at minimum. So every single mission you have to farm for like 20 minutes roughly, or more, depending on how often you use this. And that could be really annoying. So for that reason, I just wouldn't use him. But if you did do that and you wanted to spend your time in real life to get enough resources to spam this, then he's A tier. However, if you're just using him normally, I'd say he's B tier overall, in terms of like what he brings to the table. So I think that's fair. But you really have to grind just to make him A tier, where other units are just effortlessly A tier. So for positioning, we'll just go over this really quickly because it's getting there. He's a midliner, so I'll just show like where he wants to be. It's very simple. All right, unit placement. We'll get a few different units. Let's turn off Yens. Okay, so let's say we're doing a basic setup. We don't have a tank in this setup, but we'll just say Serenoa is our tank as a placeholder. We'll just say Serenoa and Roland are our front lines for an argument. And then he's like our midline. And then we have another midline. Then we have our back lines. These would be behind them. I'll just rearrange them during the battle so you can get a feel. So he should never be in too much danger. If he has high ground and he can use high ground to avoid getting slapped, that can be useful. He can fury things on high ground, so he can shut down enemy mages on high ground very easily. So he can like walk up to the wall and then like move up to them. So we'll do this. Just like arrange them, just to show like their relative positioning. So Benedict, he's definitely like a backliner who can tank for like a hit or two if you need him to. So this is like kind of like the order of operations here. This is very general positioning. This is a very basic guide and unit overview. This isn't like advanced tactics, but like this is like the breakdown of your team comp. Now obviously Roland is not a frontliner in the way that he's like a tank or something, but these, just assume these are like your tanks or your durable units. And then this is like your mage utilities and shutdowns that are interacting with enemies, and then here's your backline units that focus on buffing and healing and, you know, keeping your team going. So he's like a midliner, and he generally wants to fury things and to be safe, and then, you know, golden opportunity as needed for damage and spike and tempt, and he can endless speech things. So let's actually show endless speech really quick. I'll run through his abilities really fast, just because. All right, so here's Charm. So here's the range of it. You need to be point blank. It'll give things, when it's using the boost, -9 to 10. Without the boost on his weapon upgrade, like on the ore, it's just like -6 to 7 for magical defense and physical defense. And then we have Ruffle Feathers. You can see the range under here. It has 100% Fury against same level enemies. So once you're level 50, except for bosses, it'll be 100% Fury rate. So it's extremely, it's never misses. Perfectly consistent. And then we have Inciting Whispers. 30% success rate to tempt for 2 turns against same level. These level 3 enemies, 37%. So even against these, which I can one-shot, it's still low. So just have to keep that in mind. Brute Force generally has a 50% chance to hit against enemies that are paralyzed, immobilized, asleep, and time frozen. It should have a 100% hit rate because they cannot dodge, so something to keep in mind. Then we have Endless Speech. You can see the AoE on it here. You can see that in this case it has a 75% chance to sleep, and then a separate 75% chance to silence. So against same level enemies, it's 50. So he can reach quite far out and start shutting enemies down via silence and sleep, and it also puts a speed debuff on them, which can be useful and maybe affects the turn order slightly. And then we have Golden Opportunity, similar radius, except it has the tempt, and it should have, if not a 100%, extremely high tempt rates, like 80 to 90. It might be an auto tempt. We can test that really quick. Actually, we'll do this. We'll retreat. We'll test it on on a level 50 enemy, just to confirm that it's 90 or 100. I'm pretty sure it's 100 though. Usually like these weapon skills, with if they have like a condition for one turn, it tends to be 100, but we'll confirm that. But aside from that, he is a utility shutdown, mostly a shutdown, that can deal some chip damage, but not like a significant amount of chip damage. And if you do want him to deal good damage, you're going to have to pay for it. Like literally pay for it, and it's expensive. And you're much better off using a unit that's cheap, because you're going to have to spend like 15 to 20 minutes per mission if you plan on using Golden Opportunity like 4 times or 5 times. So it can be annoying to use. Okay, it looks like they turned him off. Actually, we'll run Julio there. Okay, let's move him up. Okay, I'll just in tandem him, and then Golden Opportunity, we'll just check the success rate of Tempt. So the Golden Opportunity deals damage in an AoE, and then it tempts, which is good, to be honest. Because it's, yeah. So like he's A tier for sure if you want to grind out the economy for spamming that, but I don't personally. And if you aren't going to do that, then he's just like a B tier shutdown that just like helps, like, you know, shut down enemy mages and stuff like this. All right, let's check this out. Well, let's light wave him. He's too far away. That's good enough. Oh yeah, battle cry. Maybe he wasn't too far away. He just didn't have the TP. There we go. All right. Golden Opportunity. Okay, it is 100%. That's what I thought. Okay, so 100% tempt rate, and look at the damage. This is really, that's really good damage actually. So he's definitely like an A tier unit when you have the economy to spam this, because you're getting the best of both worlds through this. Like you're getting huge damage, over 50% of like relatively durable level 50 units, 50% of their health over that. You're getting 100% tempt for 1 turn on each of them. And you can hit up to 5 targets. So he's definitely an A tier damage carry if you use, conditionally, if you use a battery and if you have the economy for it. But you'll burn through cash so fast using this that you'll be forced to grind in real life and spend your real life time to get fake money in a game to run a unit. So I just don't see that as being worth it. So I would still say overall he's B tier. I'm new game plussed on my 4th playthrough. So I've beaten the game 3 times on hard, and also have grinded for like, I don't know, maybe like 3 to 4 hours total. And I still don't, I only have like 50k, and I bought a bunch of items recently. I had like 200k, I bought a bunch of like healing pellets to run Medina. But between like Medina and Lionel, like it's very expensive to run some of these units, and it's kind of annoying. So like the economy stuff can really like cost you real life time, which is definitely more expensive than, you know, some coin in a game, you know, because real life time isn't something you can get back. So you have to consider that when using him. He actually will waste your real life time in order for him to be good. So you're probably better off just using a unit that doesn't waste your time. But he's A tier when spamming Golden Opportunity, B tier otherwise. If I missed anything, definitely let me know. Drop a comment. That's pretty much it for Lionel. He is a decent utility shutdown with some damage, or a damage carry when you have the economy to afford it. Yeah, definitely like this video and subscribe. I'm going to be finishing up these characters. It looks like I have 3 left. I'm going to have to beat the game. I have to get to chapter 15 to get either Travis or Cordelia. And then I have to go beat the game again to get an indestructible stone to upgrade Giovanna's like pickaxe so that I can test her out to get her upgrades and stuff. So we're looking at another, like, I don't know, 30 to 40 hours just to get there. So even though these videos, I record them in one take, I'm like 210 hours in this game. So it's cost me 210 hours of just like playing the game and testing things to get to the point where I can make a quick video where I know what I'm talking about, and it's like useful information to people who are either new or understand the game. Or even like experienced players, because like sometimes I find things other people don't know about, and maybe I'm missing something, so then someone will mention something. So kind of like pooling resources for that. But so yeah, that's it for this one. Thanks for checking this out. I will see you guys in the next video.